Radio Grand Lac, à Aix-les-Bains et autour du lac du Bourget, votre radio.
Your English Weekly. Your English Weekly. La chronique 100% en anglais de Radio Grand Lac avec Sinead.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to Your English Weekly. Bonjour à tous ceux qui nous écoutent aujourd'hui en Radio Grand Lac 92.1 FM. Bienvenue à l'émission Your English Weekly, animée par moi-même, Sinead Dupont. Professeur d'anglais, l'objectif de cette émission, c'est stimuler la langue anglaise, l'expression anglaise. Chaque semaine, vous découvrez une nouvelle leçon, soit un article, une histoire, inspirée d'un élève ou un ami, comme aujourd'hui. Cette émission est aujourd'hui sponsorisée par Your English Workshop, qui est un centre de formation pour l'apprentissage de l'anglais pour les enfants et les adultes certifiés Calliope. Restez à l'écoute dans les 15 prochaines minutes pour notre expression de la semaine et notre conversation en anglais avec Linnea Stanhope, an American here today with us known as Lily, who's going to talk about the technology and looks after le global santé en Afrique. La leçon cette semaine est de niveau C1. Hi and welcome back to Your English Weekly. Today we have a new lesson. Our lesson is a C1 level, so a little bit more complex than last week. Today, my guest is Linnea Stanhope. Do we say Linnea Stanhope?
Yes, or Lily.
Oh, that's what you like to be known as, Lily, who will discuss with us today about Africa. Hi, Lily.
Hi, Sinead.
Lily, before we start, we're going to give our audience, our listeners, the expression of the week. Now, do you know the saying, it's never late than never, or it's better late than never, excuse me. It's better late than never.
Yes, I sure do. I use that quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll find out at the end what it means. So stay with us till the end. Lily, before you introduce yourself to our listeners, or maybe actually we'll start with introducing yourself. Could you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, hello. My name is Linnea. I go by Lily, and I am from California in the United States, and I have been living in Aix-les-Bains for just over 1 year.
Fantastic. Okay, so you're from California. Now, Lily, before we continue, and could you give our listeners some of the words we're going to hear today in our lesson? For example, nickname?
Yes. Would you like me to describe it?
Yes.
So a nickname is a short name for someone like myself, Lily.
Fantastic. Downtown, in downtown.
That is in the center of town.
Fantastic. Time zone. What is a time zone?
It's the zone of time. For example, it is just after 12 noon. And in South Africa, it is just after 2 p.m.
Fantastic. A consultant. What is a consultant?
Well, a consultant primarily is someone who works for themselves on projects. In France, consultante.
Fantastic. Field. What is a field of work?
It's an area of work.
Okay. Low and middle income countries.
This is really the new word for developing countries.
Okay. And equity?
Equity means equality or equal access.
Okay. And what about implements?
Implements to deploy or install something.
Mm-hmm. And what about combat?
To fight.
Yeah. And I will repeat it because I do like this word, digitalize.
Yes, to digitalize something is to take manual processes or systems and make them into computer technologies.
Absolutely. Political federation.
A group of countries that come together.
Assess.
Assess is really to assess is to understand what you do and what you have.
Okay, and the capabilities.
along the same lines to really understand what a country or someone has.
Okay. And then our last word for today, the ministry people. But we should know that in French.
Yes, ministère, but it's also the people who make the decisions, the decision makers.
Fantastic. Okay. Would you like to tell our listeners today about what you're going to talk about? Global public health in Africa.
Yes. So I am a consultant and I generally work in Africa, though sometimes I may work in India or thereabouts. My professional background is in technology. I worked in Silicon Valley for many years. Some of you may know this expression, Silicon Valley, an area in California for technology. My educational background is in international development and global public health. The international development field is an area of work to improve the living conditions of people in low and middle income countries. Global public health mainly focuses on improving health and achieving health equity for all people worldwide. So overall, international development focuses on finding really long-term solutions to problems such as poverty, poor health care, sanitation, human rights violations, and inequities. And this generally is in the area of Africa and South Asia is primarily where international development or humanitarian work takes place. So I work on many different projects as a consultant because I work for myself. However, they usually include working with national governments or foundations to transform and digitalize services. So these services could be any government services like services for farmers, healthcare services, educational services, or services for business. So, for example, access to financing. So right now I'm working with the East African community. This is a community of 7 countries that formed an economic and political federation, much like the European Union. The countries are Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, South Sudan, and the DRC or the Congo. Somalia will be joining shortly. So the current project is to assess each country's digital ecosystem, their environment, which really means understanding what technologies and capabilities exist in their country. We're really only focused on 5 government sectors. Those are agriculture, climate, education, health, and trade and e-commerce. So generally I meet with ministry people from different sectors who have information in regards to information, communication, and technology. So basically at the end of the day, this 6-month assessment will really help create a regional digital strategy for all these countries that will allow them to provide services to all the citizens in the region and therefore or thereby uplifting their economic status.
Wow, that sounds very interesting, Lily. Thanks. Thanks for sharing all that with us. So tell me, I know a consultant works primarily on their own. How was it that the Americans got involved in these types of projects? Is it just the Americans or is there also Europeans? Is there also other people from other countries, Australia or down south?
Right. That's a great question. And so it really depends on who the funder is. Each country has their own ministry, if you will, that funds international development. So in the U.S., in the United States, it's the USAID agency. And in France, they have one. I think it's called the Agence Développement Française. And so this project is being funded by the U.S. government. There are other projects that are funded by other governments like France, Germany, the UK, etc. So this one just happens to be funded by the US government.
Okay, but do some of these projects overlap each other? Like, would you be looking for the same information that maybe the French would be looking for, or the Canadians or the Germans, as you said? Sometimes I find that or do you have a bank that you can put the information you find into and the others can use it as well? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's really one of the great challenges in our field, is that the U.S. government might be doing X. A foundation in the U.S., like, say, the Rockefeller Foundation, may be doing the same work. The German government may be funding the same work in the French. And so there are a lot of overlapping initiatives and projects and duplication of digital systems. And so that is one of the great challenges. So the approach now is to really work directly with the governments to try to harmonize and build governance structures. So the government is planning long-term and they're following a strategy versus France coming into the country and saying, here, we want to do X. Germany coming in to do X. So they have a more harmonized, holistic approach to digital services in their country.
And so therefore the digital will really change the information we receive, because a lot of the information is doubled or tripled. And sometimes we don't get the same information from the same people. You end up with information that perhaps the Germans have different information too, no?
Right, that does occur, absolutely.
And so you work remotely here from Aix-les-Bains, is that right?
I do. I work from my little sunny apartment here.
Oh, how lovely! And do you go regularly to Africa to meet up with these ministries, or do you just see them by Zoom using the technology, for example?
Yeah, primarily our research is conducted in country, but with COVID, everything was done remotely. And that set a bit of a precedent for work moving forward, because there are some savings to do research remote as opposed to going down to Africa. So, but this project really requires us to be in country for this particular assessment. So it just depends on the project. I will be traveling more because we can travel now with COVID, since COVID.
It's finished, yeah. And how long is a project? How long usually does a project take? I know that each project is individual, and of course, every individual project doesn't have the same focus or the same guidelines.
Right.
But on average, a project lasts how long? 2 to 3 years?
Well, no, not really. Just the cadence of the project or the timing of the project really depends on the scope. So if we're doing an assessment and then we have an implementation plan and then we implement that project could be more long-term. So.
Okay, so just before we finish, because we could be here for hours talking about all these fantastic things, but tell us, how do you find living in Aix-les-Bains compared to Lac Tahoe? I think that's where you're from in California.
Yes, I love living here. I love the lake. I love the mountains, access to so many things that I'm accustomed to. And of course, I love the French culture. So
and the French food, no?
Yes.
Oh, like myself. Oh, well, anyway, listeners, that's all you're going to hear today from Lily. But back to our expression before we finish. It's better late than never. So it's better late than never for somebody is to be there, hang on. I'm saying crazy things here. It's better for somebody or something to be late than never to arrive or happen. Do you have an example, Lily, we can give our listeners?
I do. I have a business example, but I'll use one that I think many people use. So if you've missed someone's birthday, it's better late than never to send them a card or give them a quick phone call to say happy birthday.
Oh, thanks, Lily. That's so sweet. Thanks for coming and hosting this podcast with me and sharing about your job in Africa, which is so passionate, and making this lesson for us. It was really kind.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's all from us today. But if you wish to listen to this podcast again, don't hesitate to find us on YouTube. Also, you will see our Facebook page with the expression of the week. I wish you all a wonderful week, and we'll be back with another guest next week. And of course, you must stay tuned, because at 1 o'clock, we've got Patrick Masson, who's back with Place aux Associations. At 5 p.m., 1 hour, 1 commune with Santos. And at 6:15, the first show with the Économie Autrement with Jérôme. So please stay tuned with Radio Grand Lac for all these fantastic shows today. Thanks again, Lily, and for joining me on the air, and stay tuned. Bye to you from us at You.
Your English Weekly. Your English Weekly. La chronique 100% en anglais de Radio Grand Lac avec Sinead.
Radio Grand Lac, votre radio.